Okay, hello everyone. My name is Mickey or Shrek, however you like to call me. We're playing Cinderella Phenomenon Evermore Fritz's Route, the good route. If you would like to see the storyline, please make sure you check out the best route, which is already uploaded to my YouTube in the same folder. Go ahead and check that out. We are just skipping ahead to all the decisions we can make and seeing the alternatives. Let's go. We're gonna apologize to him. Fritz looks at me startled. Why are you apologizing to me? Because the reason you had to resign in the first place. He says he resigned from me, but there's also the reputation he had. The reason he was so mistrusted in the first place is because of me. If I hadn't brought Mother back 2 years ago, he would not be in this predicament. Fritz places a hand on my shoulder. You don't need to apologize, Princess. But I'm surprised when he puts a finger to my lips and leans towards me. You need to stop apologizing. I told you before, everything I did 2 years ago, I did to protect you. Everything I did in my own volition. When I was cursed, I fought for you, even when I was only a shadow of myself, and I'm proud of that fact. I cannot help but remember the other side of him when he says that. The masked personality, the snarky smile, and the sardonic words. As much as Fritz likes to pretend that part of him never existed, it's impossible not to see it now. The more comfortable he becomes with me, the more I see the other side of him. Please, Princess, no more apologizing. Fine. In that case, congratulations. Fritz steps back with a smile. Thank you. Alright, and we skip forward again. We are going to buy him some tea. We have some tea at our palace, but the flavors Fritz prepares at home are not in our kitchens. Fritz often requests servants bring tea to his room, but perhaps I can prepare a cup of his favorite tea on my own. That would be more special. Now my head suddenly feeling resolute and I head to the palace gates. Though I am not familiar with the tea shops on Andriel, I am confident in my choice of tea. I buy Fritz something simple and fragrant. It does not escape me that many of the people around me notice the knight standing not too far away watching me silently. Some people smile at me, but they divert their attention not out of fear, but out of some deep-rooted awkwardness. More often than not, I feel out of place in my own kingdom. The feeling has lessened over the time. Once the season package, I take my bag in hand and walk out of the bakery, knights in tow. Sorry, we're going back. Skip. Oh, shoot, sorry. Basically, Telia, I'm so sorry. I've recorded this, re-recorded this many times, so it doesn't skip right ahead to the place. Telia, she gets the tea, she's in town. We are going to run. Oh shoot, stop. My back. A dagger is my first and final warning. I must escape while I can still remember the way back. She's wrong. Now that she's alone, I do have an advantage. Before the woman can sink her dagger any further, I feint away from her knife and step on her foot. She gasps and lashes out with the dagger, but she's too slow. Her moment of hesitance gives me enough time to run away. I can hear the woman calling to the man, but I ignore their voices and focus on the space directly in front of me. If the knights can't find this place, and I'll find my own way out. I turn at the bend of the alleyway and keep running. No sooner have I turned the corner and bumped into someone. Somehow both of us manage to keep ourselves upright. I stumble back when I feel hands on my shoulders, but then pause, recognizing the face in front of me. Princess! Both of us turn the same way to see the man and woman approaching from the end of the alleyway. They stop when they notice Fritz. Fritz glances at me. Princess, are you unharmed? I am. He offers me a tight-lipped smile before turning his attention back to the kidnappers. Alright. So we are going to return to the palace. I still have my duties and I cannot shirk them, especially now that the kingdom is the way it is. Fritz smiles at me. We'll be there soon, Lucette. He lowers the lantern as we pass through the trees. I notice his eyes catch on the same movement not too far for us, but there's only a couple heading into the forest hand in hand. I notice Fritz's eyes stay on them long after they've turned their backs on us. Fritz. I'm taken aback by the sadness in his eyes when he notices me looking at him. He shakes his hand and continues walking. Sorry, I was just distracted. He holds me a little tighter as we make our way back to the palace. Fritz shoves me off the entrance and kisses me on the hand before excusing himself. Only moments after he leaves, I run into one of the king's counselors who speaks to me about some of the new regulations brought up in today's council meeting. After the counselor takes his leave and I'm alone in the corridor, I become aware of the distant sound of thunder. Thunder. I wonder if there will be a storm. I'm on my way to the dining hall when Emily suddenly appears from around the corner. Oh, just in time, Lucette. Are tonight's guests here yet? About that. Are they late? Actually, they won't be able to come at all. She points to the sky. Thunder rumbles in the distance. They sent out a letter earlier saying they were worried about a brewing storm. They've rescheduled dinner. So, I returned for nothing. All of us will be having dinner at the usual hour. Will Sir Fritz be joining us tonight? No, he's running an errand. Emily glances at the sky again and sighs. Not the best day for errand running, is it? I hope the storm doesn't keep him. It is not yet stormy in this area. I'm sure Fritz will be fine. If only I had gone with him, I would have been able to spend more time with him. What? You have the look on your face, the one you get every time you think about Sir Fitzgerald. I was not. You could always have a couple of knights escort you to his home. Maybe you run into him in town. Did I say something strange? No, I'm just surprised you suggest this after what happened. Emmeline furrows her eyebrows, but the kidnappers have been detained, haven't they? And you obviously want to see Sir Fitzgerald. I wouldn't worry. I'll tell everyone where you are, Lucette. Emmeline is making it difficult for me to say no. After a few moments, I release a sigh and offer a small smile. Thank you, Emmeline. I stand on my heels and quickly begin to make my way toward the town. The rain is only a light drizzle when I leave the palace, but I can hear thunder close by. The air is colder now and hangs on my shoulder like a cloak. It's freezing. Everywhere I look, people are fleeing indoors. Right now, walking in this frigid rain, I envy them. I would have taken a carriage, but I didn't want to waste time waiting for the servants to bring one out in this weather. If I have an umbrella, it's not a good shield against the rain. Clearly, I underestimated Angela's weather. I shudder as I tromp through the streets. Though the knights behind me keep their distance, they stay closer to me than usual. No doubt they're trying to be more vigilant after what happened a few days ago. Eventually, I spot the manor. I step up to the front door and knock. Fritz startles when he opens the door and sees me. Lucette. He has the knights behind me, and after a succulent conversation and a polite dismissal, the knights leave us. Fritz leads me inside of his home and has a worried look on his face. You look freezing. Do you want a blanket? No, I'm fine. I just need to soak in this heat for a while. And your clothing? I looked down at my clothes, which were drier than I expected. It was the cold that was terrible, not the rain. They'll dry quickly. Alright, if you're certain. Fritz's worry eases into curiosity as I take a seat at his table. What brings you to the manor? The plans that I had were cancelled, so I thought I would come here and spend some time with you. I glanced around the quiet living room. This place was silent before, and it has not changed over the years. I cannot help but feel nostalgic every time I'm here. Were you busy? Even if I was, I'd always make time for you. He stands with a gentle smile. I'm glad you came back. I was thinking about how busy we've both been lately. I want to spend more time with you. He pauses to consider. How about some warm tea for the cold weather? That would be nice, thank you. Alright, give me a few moments then. So we can fast forward a little bit. Wait, so he breaks the teacup, yeah. So we're going to thank him for the tea. I'm glad you like it. I thought it'd be good for the cold. I'll be back in a few moments. He walks up to prepare another cup for himself. When he returns, my own tea has become lukewarm. I've not been able to stomach it after Fritz left the room. He probably needs this tea a lot more than I do. I hope it helps him relax. Don't worry, there won't be any accidents this time. He slides the teacup carefully down the table. I notice his hands shaking as he slides into a chair. Fritz? He begins to sip from the cup. I'm relieved when some of the tension falls away from his body. No, never mind, it's nothing. Alright, skip. Thank you for the tea, Lucette. Fritz is holding a cup of tea that I bought him a little less than a week ago. I brewed it this morning because I finally had some time on my hands. I knew Fritz would be visiting. It's my pleasure, Fritz. It's nice to be able to do something for him, especially when he's usually the one making me tea. He sets the teacup down on my desk with a smile. Alright, forward. Teach me how to hide. I'm confused. Perhaps that wasn't the best way to phrase that. Knights are adept in not only finding and protecting, but also at evasion. Are they not? They taught me how to be inconspicuous. Fritz raises his eyebrows. The twinkle of amusement in his eyes makes me flush. Is that not correct? Fritz laughs. To the extent, yes. Knights are taught to be inconspicuous in demeanor, but it's a little difficult with shining armor. When we protect others, we have to make ourselves apparent to others so that we can drive back threats, but... Well, I guess I do have some experience hiding in the shadows. But why do you want to learn about that? If I know how to hide myself, I may be able to get out of difficult situations with more ease. Learning how to hide could help save my life. Fritz looks at me thoughtful. Though I agree that evasion is important, remembering inconspicuous would be difficult for you, wouldn't it? He has a point, because as a princess, it would be difficult for me to hide like knights do. What if I taught you basic defense? That might lead into tips for evasions, and maybe, if you're still interested, hiding. He grins when I blush. Is it so wrong to envy Fritz's ability to blend into his surroundings? Skip. What should we do? Let's place him head on. I can tell he already knows where I'm hiding. It would be useless to run, and Fritz would undoubtedly find me if I hide. But still, maybe I can keep him from touching me head on? I glance around the area and find a stray branch just beneath my feet. I pick it up there and hold it up before Fritz stops in front of me. He looks at me, surprise clear on his face. Alright. Taking a stand there early on might have been a little premature. More often than not, your opponent will be stronger than you or have a trick up their sleeve. It's better to avoid conflict when you can. You make your stand when there's nowhere left to go or when you need to protect someone. And what if I protect myself? It comes as a last resort. Though yes, I'm going to teach you how to fight back, I promise. Skip. Ask him about the future. My father brought us something interesting earlier. Interesting? He said you spoke to him about the future, that you were at a loss for words what to do after you retire. Much to my surprise, I can see a sliver of irritation in Fritz's expression. Is that true, Fritz? You know you're more than welcome to speak to me about anything. I come to you with my own concerns about being queen all the time. Don't take offense, Lisette, but I don't really want to talk about it right now. Fritz. It's a bit of disheartening topic, and I'd rather discuss it later. He looks at me, sadness melting into concern. Will that be alright with you? Of course, but please, Fritz, I want to help you. I hope you remember that. Fritz nods at me. I know, and I appreciate your concern, Lisette. We'll discuss it later, I promise. He squeezes my hand as we head out the gates and into town. Earlier I promised we would have this discussion. He looks at me somber. I was actually going to bring it up to you myself. I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier. You don't need to apologize, Fritz. And skip. I only ever loved you. Varg was a party that was twisted by the fairy tale curse. All of his emotions stemmed from you. So even though I was thankful for some of the things Varg did, I could never have loved him. That is why I was scared when Mithras said that Varg had the potential to take over your mind. I was scared I would lose you. Varg was only a fragment of who you were, a part of you that was brought to life by a curse you couldn't even control. What if he hadn't been? Fritz pulls away with a sigh. What if I told you on the inside a lot of Varg's selfish actions were my own? Would you believe me? Fritz always acted like Varg was a separate person that he was fighting, but there was more to that than that. Actually, forget I said anything, Princess. I didn't even have time to reconsider my words before Fritz abruptly stands and turns to face me. Have the sentence. You would have them only serve 15 years. These people are so young. They may have friends and family they are supporting. Anything longer than that would only give the witches more time reason to hate us. I nod as I turn my back to the two ex-witches. I am being monogamous by having your sentences, but does not mean I've forgiven your crimes. Remember this, all crimes are judged fairly no matter who the perpetrator is. The woman stares at me in shock. The man bows his head. 1,000 blessings upon you, your highness. The woman follows example, but both are shaken as they still take him from the room. Hopefully this will ease some of the tension in the kingdom. I glance at Father who's not said a single word since I declared my sentence. Then I look at Fritz, curious about his reaction, and surprised when I see the fierce frown on his face. Alright, skip. I look at Fritz again, and startle when I see the frown on his face. His eyes are trained on the wall. Why does he look so irritated? Even Jurian is staring at him with a quizzical look on her face, but Fritz does not so much as spare her a glance. He looks as if he has closed himself off from the world. Lisette. I turn my back to the father with a half-hearted smile. Yes, I know. Thank you, Father. Lord Fitzgerald? Yes, Your Majesty. Fritz's expression is stony. He still refuses to meet my eyes. He must have his reasons. For now, I'll give him space. I'd like to speak with you on the matter I mentioned before. What is this about? Lord Fitzgerald and I have something we want to discuss in private. Then just as abruptly he turns away and stares outside, his expression is conflicted. Fritz. I recall the way he acted in the throne room earlier. It seemed almost as if he did not want to speak with me. I received your mask. I walk over to him and cross my arms. Is there something amiss? Please tell me. I cannot fix whatever it is unless you tell me what it is. This has something to do with the trial earlier. Suddenly, Fritz's expression is sad, melancholy. It's not that you did anything wrong, Lisa, only he sighs as he runs a hand through his hair. I disagreed with your ruling. Why? Was he angered by my leniency? As if he reads my mind, he turns to me regarding me slowly, his expression mellowing. It's not like you could have known, and it's not as if my feelings had any bearing on the case. It's only, well, what happened today reminded me of much of what happened with my mother. Oops, sorry. I'm so sorry. Your mother? His mother was killed, I believed. It's a bit of a long story, but suffice to say, when the criminal was killed, her trial, they were given a lenient verdict, a flawed one. A flawed verdict. Fritz nods a little absently before he sighs out again. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insist that my personal feelings should have any bearing on your decisions. No, please, I want to understand. I'll make sure that you do, but for now, I'm sorry. I should be talking about the masquerade, shouldn't I? If you're up to it, I'll help you about the incident with my mother. Perhaps talking about it will help get it off my mind. If you're willing to tell the story, then I'm willing to listen. What happened? No. No, I'd like to think that I would have known something was amiss. Fritz smiles at me gently. You have a good heart, Lucette. When I look at him, I cannot help but feel there's some concern in his eyes. You're not saying that for my sake, are you? Because I'm aware of how petty a concern it is, especially when it happened so long ago. Petty? Fritz, it is not petty. Your mother was murdered and the criminal was never properly punished. No, and I've been thinking about this whole day, but I think my father's the reason I've never received any closure. He enacted revenge to give us the most direct form of punishment, but he ignored the law in the process, even when he was a knight meant to uphold it. I stared at him baffled. I'm sorry, Lucette. Maybe I'm the foolish one for letting myself be swayed by emotions. Emotions are not weakness. No, but you're a far more rational person than I am. Either way, I'm thinking of sharing this story with you has made me understand that I can't cling to the past forever. All we can do now is change what we do in the future, right? Fritz does linger a lot in the past, but that's because he's lost so much. We are very similar in that regard. I believe we must learn from our parents' mistakes so we can do better than them in the future. Exactly. Alright. Skip. We're going to scold him. Are these dramatics really necessary for tonight? Line up, princess. You're being a killjoy. The more you talk, the more agitated I become. As much as I enjoy the scowl on your face, I can't help but wonder what a bona fide smile would look like under that mask of yours. Fritz leans toward me for a few moments, his smile softens. Just play along, won't you? It'll be fun, I promise. I did not protest when he reaches for my hand and plants a kiss on the back of it. Alright. I would like to search for my family. It occurs to me that I've yet to find my family, even though my first priority should have been to greet them, but as always my thoughts are scattered when Fritz is involved. I was wondering how long I would have you to myself. What? It's nothing. Now come on, let's go find Princess Emmeline and Prince Rod. Fritz takes my hand and begins to lead me through the crowd. This time both of us are on the lookout for familiar faces. I believe Claude and Lance are here, but I ought to find Emmeline and Rod before I greet them. We eventually find Emmeline talking animatedly to a man whose face is before and familiar. If I'm being honest, it is a relief to be free of this mask for a while. Emmeline is holding a mask, smiling sheepishly. I notice with a start that the man standing beside her, Prince Lance, is also unmasked. He laughs. I'm used to wearing masks because my mother throws many masquerade parties, but they are a little suffocating, aren't they? Brigantian masks are so heavy. Probably because of all the layer details, though if you don't mind my saying. He smiles at her gently. You look lovely in a mask, but I prefer you without one. You have beautiful features, Princess Emmeline. Oh my gosh, I love them together. I've never seen Emmeline so red. I glance at Fritz, curious. I've never asked Fritz if he knew Emmeline fancied him not too long ago. Regardless, I'm glad nothing ever came of that infatuation. Hey, you two. Rod appears from nowhere, also unmasked, looking somewhat disgruntled. Staring is rude, you know. Staring? Hardly. I think you're just being overprotective, Prince. Rod cocks a sharp eyebrow. In a few moments, he gestures behind him at Emmeline and Lance. I plan on going over there right now. To do what? To intervene, of course. Ah, the dashing but annoying younger brother goes to interrupt his sister during one of the night's most romantic moments. Why are you talking like that? Don't mind him, Rod. He's acting. Fritz smiles teasingly at Rod behind his mask, but says nothing else as Rod turns away with a frown. He makes his way over to where Emmeline is standing with Lance. Fritz and I face each other. I'm glad we didn't intervene before Prince Rod did. I feel the same way. I watched with some amusement as Rod awkwardly placed himself between Emmeline and Lance. I'm still watching them when Fritz taps my shoulder. We're going to call for help. I turn and rush back down the corridor before the knight approaches. Least helpful thing I do is put myself in danger. I must call for help. The thought instills a great confidence in me, but as I run through the halls, the confidence diminishes. No matter how loud I shout, no one hears me in these empty corridors. A sudden desperation takes hold of me. Before I realize it, I yelled out a word I've not uttered in years. Aduiva. It's a magic trick. The moment I say the word, Fritz appears at the end of the corridor, eyes wide and panicked beneath his mask. Lucette? He easily bridges the distance between us and puts his hand protectively on my shoulders. What's happened? A kidnapping. A knight has kidnapped someone. Jurian is fighting his accomplice. I am breathless at this point. As I point down the hallway, I no longer hear the swords in the distance. I hope this means Jurian's defeated one knight and is chasing after the other. Lucette, you must go back to the throne room and tell his majesty. He squeezes my shoulders tightly as if to hold me still, then rushes off down the hall, his cloak rustling behind him in the near silent night. I stand for a few moments watching him rush off. Then, after a few moments of hesitation, I turn on my heels and continue to the throne room. It's better this way. Better for me to stay out of trouble. It is I who brings the news to him, and I who helps him organize the knights to deal with the threat. It's long before June returns, but I am disheartened when she arrives with only one of the captors. Have you found the other man? We think he might have escaped the palace. Lord Fitzgerald went after him. I clench my hands into fists to keep them from shaking. Should I have gone after them? But Fritz told me to avoid fights, so I did not think I could win. My upset must be apparent. Jurian addresses me next. Don't worry, Princess. We'll find him. I can only hope the witch is unharmed. I would hear an explanation while we wait. My father turns expectantly toward the captured kidnapper. What is your motive? During the war, you let witches destroy us, and then, when we were finally able to have revenge for all the fairy tale curses they cast and humans they made suffer, you forgave them. Magic may have disappeared, but it doesn't change the fact that they're still criminals. My partner and I were only meeting our justice. Justice? These men are despicable. The king's disgust mirrors my own. He opens his mouth to respond, but stops on the door to the throne and bursts open, and Fritz steps inside. Somewhere along the way, he seems to have doffed his masquerade outfit. The other kidnappers dragged him behind him. Your Majesty, we've apprehended the other man. He forces the man to kneel. And the victim? She's in the infirmary, Your Majesty. My heart plummets at the words. Fritz inclines his head towards me, smiling softly. They're only minor wounds. Oh, thank goodness. We see to it that she receives the utmost care. Extend my deepest apologies to her and tell her I'll visit as soon as possible. When I accompanied Fritz into the room, nod before leaving to deliver the king's message. Your Majesty, if I may interrupt. My father turns to Fritz with a smile. You have my thanks for going after the kidnapper, Lord Fitzgerald. I only did what anyone else would have. Anyone else? Would I have been able to do the same thing? I heard Lucette calling for me. She's the one who alerted me to kidnapping. Even after all the practice with Fritz, I was unable to do anything. I protect myself, but I still can't protect anyone else. As I sent my thoughts, Fritz has a comforting hand on my shoulder. She also had the foresight to tell Lady Julian. It was dangerous, but had she not done so, neither of us would have known this was happening. The king smiles. To imagine my own daughter skulking through corridors. Wow, that's a big word. Making me sound like a criminal. It was a useful stealth, wasn't it? I was glad I could do that in the very least. It was brave. The king smiles. I'd like to speak to the countess now, but I'd like to hear your testimony. Fast forward. I'm sorry you had spent so much of it looking for the escaped knight. Why would you apologize for that? I should have done something. I could have done something. Fritz crouches down beside me. Gently, he takes my hands in his own. I told you before that running was the best way to stay safe, and you listened. But this was different, Fritz. This wasn't just about me. You're too hard on yourself, Lucette. Calling for help isn't weakness. My heart plunges at the thought. Before, I'd always thought about reaching out to others was weakness, that to rely on others meant I was incompetent. Even now, I can't help but feel that there was more I could have done for the Countess, but she's found in the end, at least. Injured, but alive. Please, Lucette, I never want you to put yourself in danger. But I'm the crown princess. Putting myself at the risk of people is one of my duties. Not if it means your sacrifice won't bear fruits. But Fritz. He kisses my hand. The Countess is safe, and you're safe, and that's all that matters. He does not let go of my hands until I concede his point. After, I reach into my pocket and withdraw his knife, the one I did not get the opportunity to use. You kept the knife with you? I should have used it. No, the knife is the last resort, Lucette. I don't want you to use it unless you absolutely need to. I'm glad you keep it on you, though. How can I not? Talk about the past. Fritz, back when you were my knight, you always protected me. I know I made mistakes in my past. I didn't trust anyone, yet I still depended on them to protect me. Even back then, I didn't think you properly in protecting me. As Fritz, as far, you've always been there for me. I want to protect Angela the way you protected me. I want to be just as selfless, but without being foolish. I do not believe in fruitless sacrifice, so please do not worry about me. That's a tall order, Lucette. I can't not worry about you. Perhaps you could worry just a little less then. Is that an order? If it needs to be, yes. His eyes twinkle with mirth when I reach forward to touch his cheeks. Our lips are inches apart when a knock sounds at the door, startling us both. I eye the Countess critically, searching for injuries. Much to my relief, nothing stands out. I spot a bandaged wrist beneath her sleeve and a bruise near her neck, but nothing else. How are you feeling? Splendid. My injuries were minor. I'm sorry you were injured in the first place. Please, don't apologize, Princess. If not for you, I'd have been whisked away. Anyway. And that is why, come what may, we must not allow such prejudice to stand in the way of progress. I believe in our kingdom, I believe in our ability to accept the past, and also our ability to open our arms to the future. I pause to survey the crowds and that have accumulated by the stage. I see a myriad of emotions reflected on the townspeople's faces: fear, hesitance, relief, hope. People are so much more complex than we give them credit for. They are much more than the mask they wear in public. My eyes wander to Fritz, who is standing at the edge of the stage just beside Jury, and when he notices my eyes on him, he flashes me a smile. His silent presence is enough to motivate me, no matter what might come. I turn back to the townspeople. Sometimes it is too much to shoulder the weight of our past, and sometimes the weight of our future is so daunting we turn away from it. In times like this, I beseech you, let us all open our hearts and respond to uncertainties, not with malice, but with acceptance. Let us live to be better people, not for the future, but for the here and now. Every dream begins with a leap, but not a single step forward. So let us all live for the moment in peace, so that we may cultivate a future filled with hope. Let us walk forward together, no matter our past, no matter our blood. I take a deep breath to steady my nerves. The crowd is silent, but the quiet lingering in the air is thoughtful. I glance to the other side of the stage, where the Countess of Mergantia is standing regally, her hands clasped as she looks at the crowd. She gave her own speech before mine, a speech received just as much respect. I hope my words are reaching them. I focus again on the crowds. An older civilization once left us with these words: Carpe diem, literally translated, seize the day. And that is the advice I now leave with you. Seize this day, and every other day after this, that we may all take one step forward together. Let us not linger in the past or cower before the future. Let us focus on the present and on the things that we may yet accomplish, and the good we can do in accepting others. And if we may accomplish such a thing, no matter how small, I believe that our kingdom will grow ever more peaceful over the years. Carpe diem. A solemn silence clings to the air as those words sink in. I just stopped myself from glancing back at Fritz. I'm remembering how to say the words correctly, right? My hesitance fades as the sound of applause which shatters the silence until my whole area is resonating with sound. I slowly raise my head to look at the people gathered around me. For the first time in a long time, I did not feel like an outsider begging for forgiveness. For nearly the first time in 2 years, I did not feel like the victim or criminal. I feel like a leader. Thank you. I don't know if anyone can hear my words or the applause, but I say them anyway. Eventually, I step off the pedestal and make my way for my father, who is set to give his own speech in this town, adding, I have been accompanying him for the past 2 years on his monthly visits, but this is the first time I felt confident in the words I offered the townspeople. Shortly after my father's speech, another burst of applause rings out, and the whole area is once again flooded with sounds. It does not die out for a long time. Paul and I take turns addressing some questions of recent happenings before eventually the time for speaking is over. I step out the stage and am relieved when I feel Fritz's cool hand come down on my shoulder. He leans forward and whispers in my ear, Are we still up for today? I turn to look at him with a smile. Of course, lead on, Lord Fitzgerald. As you command, my princess. He slides his fingers through mine before turning and walking back to the palace. I follow quietly behind him, my heart still thudding after the day's excitement. After ample preparation, the two of us head to the forest. Today is not a day for training, but a day for sharing. I'll be helping Fritz work on one of the many things he has on his to-do list for the future. I'm surprised when he told me he wanted to share his hobby with me, but, well, I've learned just as much as he has. I glance at the book that Fritz is holding beneath his arm. Normally, I bring a fairy tale book to the graveyard so I can read it to Delora and her daughter. But today's book is not a fairy tale. It is a book Fritz and I have been learning from the past week. It is not long before we come to the gravesite. Neither of us are surprised to see Jurian there kneeling in front of Garland's grave. She has already placed her flowers and looks to be on her way out when she notices us. Oh, your highness, Lord Fitzgerald. She bows. I hope you're not bowing to me, Jurian. Jurian snorts. Unless you suddenly become a prince. No. She glances between the two of us. But who knows, that day may not be so far off. She narrows her eyes at the book we have. That book. I hope you've been teaching Garland too. He's always interested in learning. I saw him eyeing that book when you read it during patrols breaks, Fritz. I'm sure he's been learning just as much as the princess and I. Jurian laughs. In that case, I'll leave you to your studying. I have duties. Jurian turns out one last time, her eyes fixed on Garland's grave. For a few moments, her eyes are melancholy and far away. She puts her finger to her lips and then presses them to the grave. See you later, Garland. She turns to walk away, leaving Fritz and I alone in the clearing. The two of us pay our own respects. Fritz lingers longest by Garland's grave and me. I set a flower before every gravestone, kneeling by each one to offer a separate greeting. I stop first at Garland's grave. Garland, Jurian is doing fine. I have no doubt she'll be the best commander the Order has seen yet. She thinks about you often. I hope you will continue to watch over her. I pause between Delora and Parfait's graves. Delora and Parfait, I know that today will not be the end of all my problems for the future, but I hope that it'll be the start of a new beginning. I will never stop trying to bridge the divide between darkness and light. Lastly, I stop at Mother's grave. I may not be carrying on your legacy exactly as you expected, Mother, but I take a deep breath. I want to be a queen that you can be proud of, a queen that can end strife, not through violence, but peace. When I am done, I set a distance away from the graves and pat the area beside me. Fritz plops himself down beside me, sitting close enough for our shoulders to touch. He places the book in between us and pulls open the cover. He sets his finger on the page we bookmarked and begins to read out loud. The words are in a familiar ancient language. Though most of them are still foreign to me, they sound like poetry coming from Fritz's mouth. As he's reading, I pause to point out one of the words, recognizing it immediately. There it is again. Carpe diem. That's right, carpe diem, to seize the day. When Fritz came to me with this proposition to learn language together, not more than a week ago, he taught me that phrase first. Carpe diem. It made enough an impression to me that I included it in my speech. 2 years ago, when Fritz was my personal knight, he taught me another word from the same language, adwiva. The word brought us together even under the direst circumstances, and now this language will continue to bring us together. Years ago, Fritz used to read languages to remember his mother. Now he insists on learning a language with me so he can keep me close. He wants us to be able to share secrets in a language only we understand. I feel a soft patter on my head and glance up at the sky. It is beginning to sprinkle. Don't worry, I can prepare this time. Fritz pulls out an umbrella. In no time at all, he has set it up just behind us. The both of us scoot close to protect the book from the elements. Aw, they look so happy. I thought you liked the rain. I do, but it would be a shame if the book had to suffer, wouldn't it? He smiles with me as he points to a phrase in the book. Now this phrase here, do you remember what it means? I narrowed my eyes at the slanted words. Amor vincent omnia? Wait, this looks familiar. I said it to you a couple of times. You have? In my dreams. That is not very helpful. Fritz laughs when I nudge him in the shoulder. I can't read your dreams, Fritz. I forget that I'm not as easy to read as you are. I am not easy to read. You are too. Just like I can tell now that you're embarrassed. He puts his finger to the line and reads it aloud again in a soft voice. Amor vincent omnia. Love conquers all. I trace the words again and repeat them in my own voice. In light of everything that happened before and everything that will happen in the future, those words feel powerful. Amor vincent omnia. Is there not a more direct way to say I love you? Fritz takes my hand and twines his fingers through mine. Te amo. I love you. He presses his forehead to mine, and for a few moments, it's just the two of us in the clearing. There's no memory of the past and no way to the future. There's nothing beyond our hopes and dreams contained in this very moment, trapped in our locked hearts and in the breath shared between us. Fritz? Te amo. I feel the same way, Lucette. He slides his lips to mine as the two of us share a soft kiss beneath the shade of the umbrella. In the moment of quiet and tranquility, there is nothing besides Fritz. Fritz, my knight in shining armor, and someday perhaps my prince, or my king. But for now, there's just a moment detached from both the present and the future. There's just Fritz and I, and the secret words shared between us. Carpe diem. Aw, that was cute. The end. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the series as much as I have. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate everything. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!